In this video, I'll be focusing on provinces in Canada, and I'll just mention some things about territories in Canada. So we have 10 provinces in Canada and 3 territories in Canada. For you to choose the best place in Canada, you need to keep on watching this video. So the first thing I'll talk to you about is tax. I know that Canada has crazy tax, but for you to relocate to Canada and settle in a province, you have to put that in mind amongst other things. The first thing I'm talking about is tax on goods. Canada has the 5% federal tax across all provinces and territories, while some provinces have additional provincial tax on their goods and services, while some provinces don't have. So provinces like Ontario, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Manitoba, Quebec, they all have provincial taxes, while Alberta doesn't have provincial taxes. So in Alberta, you only get 5%, while in other provinces, you get as much percent. Other provinces have 13, 14, but after the tax on goods and services that you need to consider, you also need to consider taxable income. Canada as a whole has its own tax, like the federal tax it takes up from every person that earns an income in the country. So there's the general percentage of incomable tax. There's also the income tax. There's also the tax the province takes from each person's income. So it depends on the province. Your province matters. Your province determines how much tax you pay per income, per month, per weekly, however you collect your money. You need to know if you can cope with Nunavut. You need to know if you can cope with Nunavut that has income tax in Canada. I hope you guys can. I'm showing you the list of provinces and how they tax each person's income. You can see that and all that. But you know, the interesting thing is, see Alberta that doesn't charge provincial tax as one of the highest income tax. So you know, it actually really varies. So you need to really consider which one you want to go with so that you are quote and unquote safe. Another thing I would discuss with you today is the job market. What is your career path? What do you have interest in? Which career path do you want to follow through with? Because different provinces with how they major in each industry. For example, Ontario has a lot of construction firms. It has tech, big tech. It has a lot of things. I know that Ontario has some manufacturing companies like Ford, a lot of manufacturing companies actually, Toyota, Chrysler, and a number of them. You need to consider which province offers the kind of job availability in your career path. Alberta is big on oil and gas. Another province is big on something. You get to Quebec, and what they are requiring first from you is, can you speak French? So you really need to determine. I know that language is not really language is not exactly a thing if you're not looking at Quebec, because that's where you get like the highest level of, oh, do you speak French? But every other province is just there. Is not, language is not a big thing. But you see, for your career path, you need to determine which province offers wide variety of that job that you want to pursue. And aside the province, you also need to consider the city. For example, we all know that Toronto in Ontario is very big on tech. So if you really want to be in the tech space, it's not like you go to other provinces and you won't find tech jobs here. But if you know you really want to stay in the enclosed tech space, I don't expect you to live in London. So Kitchener, Ontario, and Toronto, Ontario as the biggest tech firms in the country. I know that Kitchener has five of the biggest tech companies: Google, BlackBerry. There are five. I don't know the rest. I can't remember the rest of them. I'll put that up here for you guys to see. But if you want to stay in tech, you also need to consider the city that you are living in. Whatever career path you want to pursue, you also need to consider the city that you are going to live in that province, so that you get the best of it. But the good thing now is COVID brought a lot of remote work, so really majority of the companies are still high on work from home 100% remote. So you can be in Nova Scotia and you'll be working for a company in Ontario because you're just working from home. You don't need to be in the office. And if you have like a serious meeting you need to go, the company will fly you into their main office and all of that. So remote jobs have helped solve that aspect of be in the province that offers that job opportunity that you want. So you might not need to necessarily consider that again. But now that COVID is going, I don't know what the job market is, because I understand that some companies are now embracing hybrid. That means you go to the office for some days and you stay at home for some days. So you really need to do your research well, what works best for you. Another thing you might need to consider is family. A lot of people would emotionally go for provinces that have their families in it, so it will be easier for them to flush into the system, easier for them to live their life and be around family and friends. That's something you also need to consider. Where do my family stay? Where do I have friends? I've heard a lot of people, I'm moving to this city because my friends are there. I'm moving to this city because my family is there. So you really, really, really need to put that into consideration. But if you feel like there are opportunities out there for you outside where your family members stay, of course you can go for it. But family is another option you can pursue to make a decision. Another thing you need to consider is cost of living. A lot of provinces are now becoming what it is, quote and unquote, expensive, but there are still those provinces that have low living expenses. Even in that so-called provinces, there are cities that their cost of living is lesser than the other. For example, Ontario, you can't compare the cost of living in Ontario to the cost of living in London, Ontario. You can't compare the cost of living in Toronto, Mississauga, North York to London, to Ayr, to Cambridge. There are a lot of lesser, I don't want to use the word lesser, but there are a lot of more affordable cities in whatever province you want to live in, and you feel like, I can't afford the cost of living in Toronto. I can't afford the cost of living in Mississauga. I can't afford the cost of living in Kitchener. There are other lesser cities you can consider to stay in if you really want to consider cost of living. Another thing is housing. Housing is now a big deal, especially in Ontario and British Columbia. The cost of housing is crazy. It's just skyrocketing. I mean, even with the way the government is doing the interest rate and all that, property in Canada is not a big deal. Let me just tell you that it's a big deal. So if you want to stay in those big cities, you're going to have to work extra hard to be able to afford the rent, or even in the long run buy a property. That's why you see that a lot of people are moving into Alberta, because at a time a lot of people specifically from Ontario, because after Ontario, the next I don't know what to use, is Alberta. So a lot of people were moving from Ontario into Alberta just because so they're able to afford the housing system, so that they're able to afford to buy a house in Alberta, because the housing market in Ontario is going crazy. I mean, there was a time that, in short, even till now, you still not see houses that are affordable for not, I don't want to use the word random people, but housing in Ontario is expensive. You can get as much as, you can see as much as 1 million, 1.2 for the barest minimum homes, and whereas that same property that is 1.2 in Ontario, you would find it about 800, 700 in Alberta. So buying house, what I'm just trying to tell you, that buying house in Alberta is cheaper compared to British Columbia and Ontario. Of course, there are other cities, other provinces that don't have crazy housing system unlike these places, but people are moving towards Alberta because the housing system is actually not bad. But you know, the interesting thing about Alberta is the cost of buying can be compared to places like British Columbia and Ontario. But you see, the cost of rent, I don't understand what is going on, but let's leave it at that. Another thing you might want to consider is the minimum wage. So the minimum wage system in Canada changes, I think, per year. So you might really want to check what that province that you have in mind is offering, because that will also, of course, determine your pay. So I understand that Alberta has 16, Alberta at the moment is $16 per hour, while Ontario is about 15, and there are some provinces as low as 11, 12. So you really need to put that into consideration. What's the minimum wage job in this country? What's the minimum wage per hour in this country, in that province you want to move to? Another thing you might need to consider is, of course, the weather. You cannot compare the cold in British Columbia. No, British Columbia is not even exactly cold. You cannot compare the cold in Saskatchewan to the cold in Nunavut or Yukon. No, you can't. Those places are and even on see the cold in that Nunavut. Oh my God, is it Nunavut or Nunavut? Pardon me, please. Pardon me. But you see the cold in that province. Oh my God. Oh my God. You might really need to consider the cold in Saskatchewan. You really need to consider yourself. You need to consider, do I really want to? But British Columbia is not that cold. Funny thing, see, each province with its own pros and cons. British Columbia is not exactly cold, but the cost of living is high. Their taxable income is high. Their tax on goods and services is high. So really, what do you want? That's it. What do you want? See, the truth is, aside some things, generally nobody can pick the best province for you, because I get this question all the time. But if you are here and you have not subscribed yet, please kindly drop the press the red subscribe button down below and the notification bell beside me, and like the video and drop a comment for your girl. Like I was saying, nobody can really pick for you, because another thing you need to consider is personal preference and lifestyle, because some people are into the vibrant lifestyle, some people are into the more urban countryside lifestyle, some people are into the smaller cities lifestyle. So it really also depends on your lifestyle and your lifestyle and your preference. I mean, for someone that already made up his or her mind from the beginning that I want to live in Toronto, because the truth is, you see, Toronto and Lagos life, they're like this. You see the way Lagos is, you can easily blend into Toronto. very easy. It has a very vibrant lifestyle that you get in Lagos. So a lot of people have made up their minds already. Oh, I want to live the Toronto life. See, there's a different life in Toronto compared to any part of this country. It's a whole country on its own. It's a different vibe there. So some people have already made up their mind that I want to live in Toronto. You cannot now tell, I cannot advise that person to go and live in London or advise the person to go and live in Air. Do you guys? There are a lot of places, there are a lot of cities to live in Canada. You have to make that decision yourself. Where do I want to live? A lot of options to consider. So the truth is, nobody, I'll get this question all the time. What's the best province to live in Canada? Nobody can tell you the best province to live in Canada. You need to make the decision yourself. I've seen a lot of people that will say, oh, a lot of people in groups will say, oh, I'm torn in between living in Ontario and living in Canada, in Alberta, or I'm torn between living in Alberta and British Columbia. It's a whole lot of difference that you need to consider. So make the decision yourself and let me know from what you've heard so far about Canada generally, what province would you like to live in if you were given the chance to choose? Because the truth is, even in this journey, some people their province is chosen for them. Their city might not be chosen for them, but they've been nominated, so they need to live in that province you get. So really, aside those set of people, you have the chance to choose, you're coming as a permanent resident or you are coming through school, what province and what city do you want to live in? I've given you the list of things you need to consider to choose the best province for you. And you know, the funny thing is, there's freedom of movement in Canada. So if you come today and you land in London, Ontario, and in the next 2 weeks you don't like the vibe, you can move to Nova Scotia, you can move to another province. Nobody's really stopping you. You can move anywhere you want to go. Even the provincial nomination people, you really can move anywhere you want to go to, but that's not a topic for this video. So I've given you what you need to consider to move to the best province for you. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have questions. Let me know in the comments.